Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Good for the Soul. This is episode number 24. In this episode, I sat down with James Johnson Jr. He's the owner, operator, head coach of Alliance Bjj Jiu-Jitsu in Lacey, Washington. I believe there's another location in Tacoma, but I was at the Lacey one when we trained and did the interview. He's got an extensive background in wrestling and jiu-jitsu. He's been training a long time, so it's really cool for me to be at his gym. Super welcoming guy. Awesome environment. His team was great. Yeah, I enjoyed everything about that interaction, the time I spent there at their gym, which was really cool. I actually still remember the technique from that day because I have this thing when I travel and maybe I'm only there for 1 or 2 sessions, I really absorb what that person has taught me because I associate the meeting them, maybe the interview with that technique now. So it was a X-guard defense and the ways to swivel your hips and where to pressure on the ankle so you can backstep on the leg and all these little details about jiu-jitsu. So that was really cool. And yeah, we vibed. We're able to sit down and talk jiu-jitsu and get his story, which was exciting for me. And hopefully you guys get something out of it because I really enjoyed it. And for me, being able to learn from all these experts in their craft was really awesome. So before we jump into that though, I want to remind you guys to go to jockofuel.com, get yourself 10% off by typing in Good for the Soul at checkout. That's the superfood greens, the protein powders, the supplements, the shakes, what else they got? So many things now actually, which is rad. Seeing each department of Jocko Fuel continue to grow. They got more and more flavors of the Discipline Goes, which are some of my favorite healthy energy drinks. There's no sugar, sweetened with monk fruit. They're pasteurized. So it's awesome. Go to jockofuel.com, get yourself 10% off, give it a shot, take care of yourself for the future longevity of being able to train, fitness, run, whatever you guys do to stay active. So without further ado, here we go. Episode number 24 with James Johnson Jr. of Alliance in Lacey, Washington.
Cool. All good, man. Thank you for sitting down with me. I appreciate your time. So let's start from the beginning. Where does your love for jiu-jitsu or martial arts come from?
So I did martial arts as a kid. Okay. I did Tang Sudo, Taekwondo, and then I also wrestled for a long time. But when I found jiu-jitsu, I'm a martial artist by heart, by trait. So digging into the gi and understanding the actual martial arts of it was cool for me.
Nice. Yeah. Let's go right to the beginning. What was stepping on whichever mat was first like for you as a kid? And what age did you start at?
So I did Tang Sudo for a long time as a kid. But when I started wrestling I was maybe like 15 when I started, 16 when I started wrestling. And then I just never stopped. I didn't want to wrestle, but my dad was like, he used to wrestle. So he was like, you're going to at least do it one time for a season. So I was like, all right, fine. So I finally did like the end of the season because I dodged it for a long time.
Yep.
I finally did the end of the season. And then I just kept doing it.
Okay, cool. Do you remember what that transition felt like maybe from a striking martial art to, I don't know if you have brothers or not, but a grappling martial art?
Yeah, I think it was kind of natural for me. I think because I already had the balance, I had the flexibility, so there was things that I could do that a lot of guys couldn't do. I was not as afraid to get put in certain scenarios. It was oddly pretty simple transition.
Okay, cool. So you wrestled all through high school.
Yeah.
What was the next step? When you get out of high school, we're young men trying to figure out what's next in life. Yeah. What was next and how did you continue your journey?
So when I graduated high school, I had a scholarship for a small community college in California. Okay. I'm from Florida, but I had a small scholarship for California. And but in reality, I knew deep down I didn't like school. Right. So I was like, all right, this is probably not gonna work out. So I knew the recruiter, the Army recruiter. So I contacted him one night. I was just up all night thinking about it. I contacted him the next morning, and I was like, hey, I want to join. And he was like, well, we got to do a few things. I was like, okay, I'm ready. He was like, you come in today? I was like, yeah. So I went in one day, and I did everything.
Cool.
And then, so by the time I left the MEP station, I had a job. I had everything set up. I was leaving like 2 months later. I didn't tell anybody. And I did it, and then I started telling everybody. It was kind of funny. Nobody knew, and everybody was surprised.
What did your parents say when you made that leap?
My mom was okay with it. My dad didn't. He wanted me to, go to college. He wanted me to do it. He didn't want me to go to the military.
Okay.
But my mom, she was cool with it.
But that's usually the other way around. Mom's worried.
No, but for me, I knew my dad was gonna, because it wasn't a full scholarship. So I knew my dad was gonna be doing a lot of the heavy lifting. Like he was gonna be working. Gotcha. He was gonna be like and for me, I knew that I would be going to school, working, studying, all that stuff. So that was a part of why I sat and I thought about it. I was like, this is gonna be a lot. And then I also didn't want him doing all that heavy lifting.
Gotcha.
So that's why I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna do it.
Cool. Yeah. So you wrestled in the Army.
Yes.
So talk to me about that. What style was it? Freestyle, Greco?
I was Greco.
Okay.
I had never wrestled Greco before. So when I joined, I had never wrestled Greco or freestyle.
Okay.
So it was just like a complete different transition. But once I joined the military, I had no intentions of wrestling again. I didn't even know they had wrestling in the Army. I had no idea. So when I joined, I just ended up doing a few tournaments overseas. I was like stationed in Germany, so I was doing a few tournaments, and then guys started talking to me about all Army tryouts, and I was like, I really didn't want to go because I was partying in Germany.
Just having some fun.
yeah. But then when I went, the wrestling coach was like, we need to keep this kid. So cool. Then it took a while, but by the time everything worked out, I was able to stay, and it was awesome. I mean, we were stationed in Colorado Springs, and we trained at the Olympic Training Center. So we trained on post, and we trained at the Olympic Training Center.
That's some high-level wrestling.
Yeah.
Real quick, again, for the people listening, even myself not having grown up in the wrestling world, how do you explain, difference between Greco and freestyle for people?
So Greco is, you can't grab the legs, you can't attack the legs. You can manipulate them with your knees and things like that, but you can't like try to sweep them with your legs. You can't grab.
So no grabbing legs, no foot sweeps, so like no judo foot sweeps in Greco.
Right.
Okay.
But it's a lot more throws, things like that, because everything I'm doing is upper body. So I'm trying to I can use my leg to kind of tap your knee or something like that, but a lot of it is like subtle, sneaky ways.
Gotcha. Okay. That's learned. So talking about that experience, you're wrestling in the Army, you fell into that again, and then boom, training at the Olympic Training Center. Like that's a dream for most people. That's pretty cool.
So I think for me personally, I didn't even I think the hardest for me was I never had a dream of wrestling in the Olympics. So it was never something that my mind completely wrapped around, like I should be training super hard. It was never something that I had a big vision on. So I think I didn't take it as serious as a lot of people did, you know what I'm saying? Right. It was a cool experience. I met a lot of cool people. I did a lot of traveling. I wouldn't trade it for anything. It was a great experience. I learned a lot about myself. I still got a bunch of buddies that I wrestled with that were in the military with me, and some that weren't. You know? So it was pretty cool. Just coming up in that environment was pretty cool. So I learned a lot about myself and a lot about life and things like that.
What is the culture of wrestling in the Army as well as training at the Olympic Training Center? What did that feel like? And maybe compare it to a normal jiu-jitsu room.
I think when I think about the culture that we had in the Army, in the Army room, I mean, we were Army. So we were kind of not against everybody else, but we were our team. Right. We trained at the Olympic Training Center. We helped the other people. They helped us, but it was still us.
Gotcha.
It was Army against, we're coming to battle. You know? And then when I think of jiu-jitsu, I think it's just like the different teams. Like with me being Alliance, it's like, we are Alliance, just like I was Army.
Gotcha.
But it's still, I train with anybody. You show up, we train. Same thing what we did at the training center or on the base.
Cool. So now talk to me about jiu-jitsu. Like, how did you hear about it at first? How did you find it? How did that creep in? How did you fall into this one again?
So for me, when I became a drill sergeant, I had a buddy, his last name is Portillo. He was the one that first started showing me jiu-jitsu. He had this high-level wrestler that just showed up on the trail with him to be drill sergeant. So he started showing me different things. And then I ran into one of my good buddies, Andrew Chappelle. Okay. He was a black belt in jiu-jitsu. So he started teaching me a lot of things. And then when he left, I didn't have him around, but I always wanted to train with him. And then I just lucked up and he ended up coming here to Washington. Okay. So then I was able to keep going. I was already training, I knew stuff, but I wasn't I wasn't like a gi, jiu-jitsu. I didn't do it a lot,
Gotcha.
but I was still doing it every once in a while.
Right.
And then I want to say maybe 2013, 2012, Chappelle came here, and then that was I never stopped training.
Gotcha. Well, what about it? Did you get out of the Army while you were already trained Jiu-Jitsu? And then what about Jiu-Jitsu specifically kept you here?
I think it wasn't I was still in the military.
Okay.
I already owned the gym when I was in the military.
Okay.
So it worked out. So I was just still training but when I started doing jiu-jitsu, it is the art of it for me. I competed a little bit, but I had competed so much wrestling that it wasn't that I didn't have that kind of fire.
Yeah.
But I was still a martial artist, so I was still gonna do something. So I was teaching wrestling, but I was still doing jiu-jitsu.
Okay.
So then it was like that continued fire for me anyway. So it all worked out.
Cool. That's awesome. We'll jump forward a little bit to maybe your perspective now as a coach. How do you, someone comes to you, man, woman, or child, curious about jiu-jitsu, how do you explain to them or get them through that fear to get through the doors for the first time?
Right. So for me, I try to make sure that they understand that we're gonna take care of it. Like, you don't have to come in here and you don't battle. Like with being Alliance, we have like a methodology, it's things that we do that to give you that foundation and take your time to kind of understand what's happening. You won't roll right away. You know, you'll train with people that have a little bit more experience. It'll be a lot of like, I like to put people in different sequences. So it's like you're not going from one thing to a whole nother thing. You're kind of flowing through it. So you kind of go, oh, okay, that's why I do that. Oh, this is what I'm doing. Okay. So it's like to give them that time to really understand what they're doing. And then as they get more experienced, it's like, okay, now you can roll in this scenario. Okay, you have the closed guard, you just need to open the guard, you just need to pass it. Okay, now, you need to not let them pass your guard. So it's like giving them the little pieces, they're going, oh, okay. So as it builds, they know that they understand. I wouldn't want them to do anything if they don't understand what's happening.
I think that's a super important point you talked about was, hey, calming the nerves of, hey, you don't have to come in here and go to battle day one.
Right.
You know, that people have that fear. I remember that, like, what am I walking into?
Exactly.
Do you ever hear maybe different fears or nerves from a female's perspective, and how do you manage that as a coach?
Yeah, so for me, I like training females because I try to give them, because I'm a little bit smaller, I try to make sure that they understand different ways to get out of things and to maneuver. But I do have a lot of females in the classes, so I like to pair them with the females so that they kind of understand that, okay, they get the understanding of what each position is. There's certain positions that I wouldn't put them in day one, so that way they kind of, it's like I don't want to shock them with different things. So you want to kind of keep them, put them in certain positions that they kind of can understand what's happening, especially if they have a female partner. It's okay to get them to understand what's happening, And then we also do have like a women's class, women only class, just so they can, because the goal is to have them train some women if they're not sure, then to have them train with the women first, and then when they start to go, okay, I know what's happening.
Yes.
Okay, now they get more comfortable, especially a lot of them, they get a little bit more curious. They're like, okay, I want to train with men because I want to see what it's like.
That's awesome. You had a phenomenal kids class. I walked in, you had 40 kids on the mat. So one, congratulations, because that's beautiful to see. That's the next generation of jiu-jiteros. What about the parents who bring their kids in for the first time? And like, you've probably seen so many personalities and characteristics. Talk to me about kids jiu-jitsu. What's that like running for you?
Kids are, I like teaching the kids. You just have to keep them like reeled in and keep them dialed into what's happening. If they're really little, you don't want to keep them too long. You kind of want to get them in and get them doing something and then get them out, so they don't start losing focus. But when I have new kids come in, I try to make sure I pair them with a kid that's been doing it for a while, and then it's the same as you always want to keep it pretty simple for them in the beginning, because at the same time, I don't want to scare you away from jiu-jitsu.
Right.
I want you to go, okay, I can do that. I can do this. Things like that. Right.
Yeah, no, definitely. we get someone through the door for the first time, like, cool, I'm excited about jiu-jitsu. What's the, we know, or at least, I don't know if you remember, but for me, those first 3 to 6 months is the hardest time, right? Because I had never done a grappling martial art, right? You have your wrestling background, but as a coach, how do you explain to people how to get through that first white belt stage?
Yeah, I think a lot of what I do is I try to get them to understand that you're not going to understand everything right away, and I try to get them to relax. The main thing is, I think the main thing that I see is when people are drilling, they're trying to do everything so hard. And I'm like, just relax. It's okay. He's not fighting you. Just relax. So that I think that's the biggest thing, is getting them to relax and know that you're not in any danger. Just So I think that's.
Do you remember your first time tapping someone in jiu-jitsu class?
No, because I think with all the time I did combatives, because I did the Army combatives. Okay, so for me, I think it was so long ago. I don't. But because I wrestled for so long, it wasn't like.
It wasn't that.
It wasn't that big. Yeah, it was like, okay, I've been doing this for years, so it wasn't like.
But you must see the grin on someone's face when they get a tap.
Yeah. I like when you see people and they're trying something and they get the tap, and some people actually cheer like oh yes, and I'm like, good job.
Good job.
Yeah, but it's still it's cool. And then when you have the partners and they're like, oh, I'm sorry, like that's okay, man. Like you got the submission. So I think it's cool to see people that. When you first see them come in and to see them start to build, and then they get some kind of submission, they're like, oh wow. It's like, you see, you can do it.
Yep. No, that's great. So again, we get them through that white belt phase. They finally get their blue belt, but we know blue belts get it and they run. What is the biggest reason that, from your perspective as coach, you see the blue belt blues happening, and how can we curb that? How can we get people to stay on the mats for longer?
I think, in my opinion, when I see the blue belts, whether they stay or go, I think it is about, a lot of them, they've got that initial like, I'm a blue belt. Should I be a blue belt? Am I good? So it's like a lot of that is what happens to them. So they get it, and then some of them, they kind of back off a little because they get that, well, I don't want to roll with these white belts because I don't want to be, I don't want to feel like I'm not.
It's an ego thing.
And I think that is the problem, but I think it's not what I try to tell people. It's not a big deal. That's why you're here. If you get submitted, that's okay. You make a note. Okay, I got submitted because I did this. Okay, now you fix it. That's it. And it's like, you may keep getting submitted till you fix it. But I think a lot of it is they're so concerned with being caught by a white belt. So when your coach is not gonna, it's like, hey, stuff happens. It's not, the end of the world.
Yeah, no, definitely. What was working your way through the belt system like? Because you did have a lot of grappling experience. Well, talk to me about your belt progression.
I went through fairly quick. I was training a lot, maybe 2 times a day, but I was training probably 2 times a day, and I was only training with the black belt for a long time. So it was just me and him. And then I was competing in the beginning. So for me, I went through the belts fairly quick, which I still had that same, like, do I belong here? But it was like, I think for me, the hardest transition was going from being top heavy for a long time to going, okay, I need to lay on my back and figure this out.
Cool.
And then I just got really good at, on my back. But I think that was the hardest part for me. But I think going through the belts, because I was already a black belt in Tang Sudo, Taekwondo, going through the belts I wasn't concerned with it, but it was just happening.
Right.
I think a lot of people get concerned with it.
Yeah, was there one that was more meaningful to you, blue, purple, brown, black, where you were like, maybe, damn, this feels like I know jiu-jitsu, or did any of them mean more to you than the others?
Black belt.
Yeah.
I think that it was an accomplishment that it was weird to explain, but I was like pretty like proud of myself.
Yeah,
I don't know.
for sure. No, definitely, as you should be.
I was pretty proud of myself. Even though I've deployed, I've done all kinds of stuff, but it was just something about it meant a lot to me.
Cool.
I think because I respect the art so much, I respect the black belts, I respect everybody that I've trained under, that it was just like that I don't know.
No, it's all good. I think one of my friends 2 years ago, first close friend that I knew had gotten a black belt. I was like, dude, you got it. That's awesome.
Yeah.
What does it feel like? And same things like, I'm happy, but like, I don't know.
I understood.
How do you, again, as a coach now, try to explain to people who maybe get caught up on only looking for the next belt? How do you explain that to people? Like, it's not the only thing.
Yeah, I think when I think about that, I have some people that are concerned with it, but I feel like I don't run into that as much as maybe I used to years ago. I think for the most part, people get it now that it's gonna come when it comes.
Yeah.
I think, but when I think about being promoted, I just feel like you just need to know that you earned it. However, I feel like no matter what belt you get, you're not gonna feel like you should have it. It's just a weird thing. It's like you get nervous. People will disappear for a month when you promote them, and they come back and they're like, I don't know if they're just not sure.
Yeah.
It's just the way it is,
Totally. And remind me, how long have you been doing Jiu Jitsu specifically then?
So I've been doing Jiu Jitsu since, I want to say 2008.
Okay.
But I didn't get deep into the gi until 2013. But I had done some gi, which is in the military uniform, which we did. We did some gi, but mostly in the uniform and then out of it because I wrestled most of the time.
Right.
But I put on a gi traditionally when Chappelle got here, 2013. But I just never took it off. Like, I don't do a lot of no-gi because of my wrestling. I'm kind of, I'll do it, but I'll teach it a lot, I'll do it, but I think because of all my injuries, I kind of just, I'm more of a gi guy now.
Cool.
So.
Oh, that's great. You must, for the years you've been training, you must have had many rounds on the mats. Do any stick out in the moment of like, hey, there was this one time, that war you had with one of your main training partners or something that you could share with us?
I think the one time that because I wrestled for so long and I was a high level wrestler, I never really paid much attention to Jiu Jitsu until I rolled with Chappelle, Andrew Chappelle. That was the first time I was like, cause for me, I'm a wrestler, but I was in so many different scenarios that I was just in a lot of trouble. And that's when I was like, okay, a really good Jiu Jitsu guy is gonna, I'm gonna have a lot of problems.
Yeah.
So then that's when I started really learning. But it was, normally when I roll with guys, because of my wrestling, if they weren't on that level, it was easy for me to stay in control.
Gotcha.
But then when I finally ran into like high level guys, I was like, oh boy, I didn't, I wasn't lost.
Gotcha. So they finally gave you that feeling of like, oh, what is this jiu-jitsu thing? Okay.
Yeah, there's guys I bro, like I think Andrew Chappelle, Jay Palacios. These are guys that really, they will humble you and you're like, okay, I don't know it. So that's what happened to me.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah.
Because of the many years you've been coaching, you have a lot of experience to rely on. What is a positive thing that you're seeing on the mats nowadays as a coach?
I'm trying to think of one main thing. I mean, I think for me as a coach, I just like seeing people take in like, hey, this is what happened. This is why it happened. And they're like, okay, yes.
That light bulb moment.
Yes. And it's like, even if you look at them, like, I like talking to someone like, do you understand what happened? Yeah, I didn't grab the leg. Like, they know, but to me, it's like, okay, so now you know. So it's like, that's the key. If you don't know what happened, now that's when I gotta try to figure out how to get you to understand what happened. But that's what I like getting it to where you see the look on their face and like they knew what they did wrong. And I think that's when you know that they're figuring it out.
Cool. No, that's wonderful. I had two very specific moments tonight from taking your instruction. I was like, oh my God, how's no one showed me this before? The little details, your escort pass and back step. I was like, oh, this is nice. I loved it. So for all levels, we were getting light bulb moments. It was great. So thank you for that. What is something as a coach that grinds your gears that you do not like? And that we can also share with people to be aware of it. Like, hey, whether it's culture, technique, attitude on the mat. I mean, some things that we can share.
I think it is ego, attitude. Like, if you get submitted or if something happens, to not take it so personal. And then, like, being a good partner. I think that's the biggest thing, is being a good partner. It's a balance of, okay, I'm gonna submit you, but I'm not gonna try to hurt you. Like, you know, it's like, or I'm gonna control you, but I'm not trying to hurt you.
Cool.
You know, a lot of new people, sometimes they get lost in, like I said, when I roll out, I tell them, like, okay, calm down, man. I'm here, but I'm here for you. I'm here to help you. Like, I'm not here to hurt you. You're safe. You know what I'm saying? Like, because a lot of they get so caught up in doing something, like, hey man, relax.
Along those lines, how do you manage culture in your gym? Because I have a couple friends who own gyms now. How do you manage culture in your gym to keep it where you want it to be and maybe nip things in the bud?
Well, I think when I think about that, I had somebody tell me once, and and it didn't dawn on me, but it's the owner. It's you. What do you put out? Like, for me, I'm a real laid back guy. I want everybody to enjoy being around each other. I want you to have fun. I want you to learn. I want you to laugh. I want you to have a good time. And you can feel it when you're in the room. That's what you want, right? If you come in and you're angry and you're not talking and you're like yelling at everybody, now the room they're gonna be like all stiff, and the room is gonna feel like that. So that's how I feel about it a lot of times.
When you made that transition to coaching, were there any maybe nerves you specifically had to work through on leadership style or coaching to address those negative energies in the gym?
No, I think for me, because I was in the Army for so long, I was like, you know, drill something. I kind of already came in letting people know. I kind of make sure that, I feel like as long as you come in and they understand that you are in charge, you don't have to say it every day.
Right.
It's just they know that, okay, hey, this is what we're doing today. And they bring it in, and you know, like, hey, let's go, bring it in. You know, like, they feel that authority.
Yes, totally. You said now you're a gi player. What is your game? What is something in the game you enjoy playing?
I think I like passing. I like passing. I like the different styles of passing. If I'm on my back, I like spider guard.
Okay.
But I think for me, I'm still all over the place. I'll try something and then I learn something new. I'm like, okay, well, that's what I should be doing. So it's like I'm still learning, whether it's passing or playing a guard. So I have things that I'm trying to do, and then all of a sudden someone shows me something. I'm like, okay, well, I need to go back to it. You know, so
Totally.
Always learning.
Along those lines, what is the last thing you learned? What was the last time you were at the drawing board? Like, okay, this clicked.
We just had a seminar recently with Bruno Malfazine. He was here.
Oh, cool.
Last month. And there's things like, whenever I'm around guys like that, you know, these really high level guys, you think you know something, and then it's like, okay, well, I didn't know that at all. You know, and it's like little things. It's like little things that you're doing it, but you're just not turning your foot the right way. Not putting
just a little angle helps tremendously.
Like, oh, okay.
I mean, like, even tonight, the way you explain the angles of, hey, if you're leaning too far forward posting to try and back step on this, they'll push you forward and sweep you, as opposed to put your hand here. You know, it's those little black belt details. Do you have a personal favorite submission you enjoy doing?
I think I like Kimura, because it's like, you got the Kimura trap. Like, if I can lock in that position, I'm gonna be able to kind of move different places without it being difficult for you to get your arm back. That's just, for me, it's like a place that no matter where I end up, if I see it, I'll try to lock it, and then I'll figure out my transition from there.
Gotcha.
Right, because I can take the back, I can try to submit you, I can go to a straight arm, I can do a ton of stuff. You know, so I really like to come off.
Is that the submission your main training partners would say you get on the most? Are those the same?
Yeah.
Okay. Because for me, I love watching certain submissions, but maybe I do different ones, so they're in alignment.
No, those guys know that because a lot of them, as soon as I lock it, they're like,
Damn.
they know I got it.
That's awesome. What do you think makes your gym successful, or in general, a successful jiu-jitsu gym?
I think the camaraderie. We do have a lot of military guys and civilians and kids, of course. But I try to make sure that everybody feels like a family. Like I don't want it to feel like a gym per se. I want it to be more of a family. Like, you know, we're a team, we're a family. When I came up wrestling for the Army team, we did a lot of things together. And I try to make sure that we're always doing something together, you know.
Yeah, no, that's great. And if you could change one thing about the jiu-jitsu community in general, what would it be?
I'm trying to think if there's anything I've seen. I think politics.
Yeah.
I don't mind them, but I think that keeps a lot of people, not I don't want to say people, but I think that's one of the things that slowed jiu-jitsu down, because I've had different MMA gyms and different things like that have reached out to me, but when they're so afraid to be a part of Alliance or Gracie Bar or something, because they feel like it's too, you know, it's like constricted. And I tell them it's some aren't like that. It's okay, you know. So a lot of people they're afraid of that, thinking that they're gonna have their hands tied, you know, like they can't do much. Which it's hard to explain, but I think there is a politic thing that's out there that I don't really see it much, because I don't really.
You don't pay attention to it.
Back, but I hear things and I see things, and so I kind of understand.
And what are those things, again, for the people who are new to jiu-jitsu, trying to draw them in? Like, what are those things that you should maybe avoid, or when you say the word politics in jiu-jitsu, even sometimes I'm like, what are they? You know?
Yeah. So I think when I think of politics, I think a lot of it is not it's not something that. I feel like it's mostly black belts, gym owners, you know, affiliate people. These are the things that they deal with it a lot of times. So a lot of people don't see it.
Okay.
But the people that are like in the mix, they feel it. You know, they have to. You know, I think it's not. It's probably not as big of a deal as maybe it used to be.
Yeah.
But there is little things here and there that I see, and I think it's just not necessary. We all train, you know.
Yeah. It's about jiu-jitsu. You know, we can spread the love for it. It's all good. No more crayon. She's not a big thing anymore.
Yes.
which I think is paved the way for more people to continue training, which is awesome. When you hear from your students who are doing well in jiu-jitsu and maybe their family life and business life, how do you hear? Because jiu-jitsu is your profession, but how do you hear people either wanting to start jiu-jitsu, or who are in the game? Right, blue belt, purple belt, they've been in the game for a while, prioritizing training while also being successful in business and family. Like, what are some things you hear from your students?
Yeah, I think it's a discipline thing. It's like, I think jiu-jitsu also gives them that outlet. So most of my guys, they try to make that time. They make the time. I think you probably feel the same way. I think as a jiu-jitsu practitioner, the longer you've been doing it, you have to do it. You can't go like, I can't go too long without being on the mat. So it's like one of those things where everybody, they just, you know, and I think when it comes to success, it's like a mental thing, you know. You train hard, you go out, you get your work done, you train hard again, like it's like a mind thing. You know?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, and you're going right into it. Like, what are some of those key benefits of training jiu-jitsu that people who have not trained before should know about?
I think one of the main benefits is just you kind of find out about yourself. You get to explore different things. Like if you have never done any martial arts or anything like that, I think it does show you, it gives you that confidence to see, okay, I can do it. I'm okay, you know. And then of course it's a self-defense. So it gives you like as far as for us, we will teach you the self-defense side of jiu-jitsu also. So I think it's a confidence thing, even for kids. Like I see the kids, you when they first come in, they're quiet, they're shy, and then now they're like they got a whole nother person, you know.
Yeah, definitely. No, that's wonderful. What about your journey of martial arts? Because it's been, you've had multiple disciplines, the wrestling, the karate. Did you do any MMA or boxing or anything like that?
I did. I trained MMA, kickboxing, things like that. So I do. I've done kickboxing.
So you've done the whole life cycle of martial arts. What about your journey as a martial artist? Have you learned about yourself through that journey?
About myself. I think the main thing that I learned, I think growing up, learning, being a part of Tang Sudo, Taekwondo, wrestling, all that stuff, I never thought I would teach. I never knew that. I think as being in it and then starting to teach people, I think that was the transition that surprised me the most, was that I became a teacher. I didn't know that I would become a teacher. I think that was pretty cool for me. And then I think that's what you mean as far as your...
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's along those lines of you didn't know you were going to be a teacher. Next thing you know, you're owning gyms.
Yeah.
What about being a teacher gives you meaning? What does it feel good to you?
I like seeing people, like I said, watching that light bulb click, and then especially kids, watching the kids battle, and then they're like they did something good and they're happy, you know what I'm saying? And the same thing with adults, you'll be surprised at how adults there may be something they're trying to do and they can't do it, and then when it finally clicks, you see that the excitement on their face that they figured it out.
Cool.
So
that's great. Lastly, because I don't want to take up any more time tonight, because I really appreciate it. Completely removed from martial arts, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, what do you personally do that's good for the soul?
I think for me, it's the family, being around the kids, talking to my kids. I have a couple little ones too. Just talking to them, hanging out with them at the house, watching them argue or fight or something. it's annoying, but it's funny. And I think for me, just being at home, sitting around, talking to the family, going out to eat, things like that. I think that is the main thing for me. I don't do it that much, but because I have the 2 gyms, I'm bouncing. But it's cool. And then I do my 2 little ones are in the class, so even for me that's cool because I get to watch them, battle, and it's fun.
Yeah, that's awesome. Do you have any physical injury recovery tips that we can share with some people?
So for me, I still try to do a lot of stretching. I use CBD. I do use CBD. Cool. But that's the main thing for me is CBD.
Cool.
I'm trying to think of what else.
Stretching and CBD, that combo is good right there, my dad. I need both. I need more of both of those. So that's awesome. Any final thoughts? Anything you'd like to share?
No, it's just cool, man. No, it's just cool.
Awesome.
I'm glad that I got to actually meet you. Like I said, it was pretty cool. It was an honor. I thank you. That was cool, man.
Dude, I really appreciate your time, bro. Thank you so much. Appreciate it, guys. Thank you for listening.
Awesome.
Guys, if you've made it this far along, finished the interview, I just want to thank you again for supporting me along this journey, and hopefully you got something awesome out of that interview. I really enjoy doing these, learning so much about life, jiu-jitsu, and everyone has such a unique and interesting perspective. So I hope you got something out of that that you can take with you. And one last reminder, for 10% off on any Jocko Fuel products or Origin USA products, go to jockofuel.com or originusa.com. Support yourself by getting some awesome products, supplements, protein shakes, greens, all that good stuff. It helps support me along this journey, and again, supports yourself and an American-made company. So yeah, jockofuel.com. Check it out, guys. Thank you very much.